Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your guest co-host, Billy Briz. Today, we're going to be talking UFC Vegas 56, Alexander Volkov versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And Billy, it's going down this Saturday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Two heavyweights trying to get back in the win column and trying to say that, hey, I got one title run left in me. You got the long Volkov taking on the one-hitter quitter of Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I have a feeling this one ain't going 5 rounds.
Yeah, man, I have the same feelings, man. We didn't have UFC last week. It feels like when you don't have that UFC in between weeks and then you come back, you want to, just take it nice and slow. But there's a couple of lines on this card that I'm really looking at that really caught my eye. We'll get into it on the main card, man. There's a lot of theatrics this week, man.
There absolutely are. There's been records that have been changed multiple times. There's lots of things to say. But, I mean, dude, without further ado, speaking of the main card, let's get right down to business with this main event, because in the main event, we got the number 7 ranked Alexander Volkov. He's 34-10, taking on the number 8 ranked Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who's 12-3. And currently, they got it, depends where you look, but Alexander Volkov minus 160. The comeback on Jairzinho Rozenstruik is plus 140. So there's a lot to talk about with this matchup. Obviously, there is a size difference. I mean, you look at a guy like Alexander Volkov, 6'7", currently is the tallest man in the heavyweight division. Now that my boy Stefan Struve has retired, I don't believe, and Travis Brown is also retired. So I think that Alexander Volkov is the tallest man, not just in the heavyweight division, Billy, but in the UFC. And you're taking on a guy in Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who, interestingly enough, I think once he was listed at 6'4". Then he was listed at 6'2". I'm still waiting for them to get it right and list him at 5'11". But bottom line, man, when this guy closes the distance, bodies do tend to hit the floor. I mean, he's got an 100% knockout rate in the UFC, and he's got a 90-something knockout rate in terms of his wins in general, because the only time he's ever won that hasn't been a knockout was a decision win on his regional scene against Kovalev, actually, of all people. Not the boxer Kovalev, guys. Some dude on his regional scene named Kovalev. But yeah, this should be a great matchup. I mean, what are your initial overall impressions of how this one is going to go down?
Man, this one was a little bit weird because I didn't really agree with the line too much. Minus 160 for Alexander Volkov doesn't feel like the warm and fuzzies route that I want to take. But there's actually something that really caught my eye, Dan. FanDuel slipping out there, and this is exactly how I think this fight's going to play out. Rozenstruik by knockout, and then Alexander to win by decision. Minus 155 in the UFC special parlay section. I feel like that's the way to attack this fight. I know you said you don't think this is going to go 5. That means Rozenstruik's going to get a knockout, but I think Volkov is going to have similar problems like he did against Derek Lewis. I feel like those are two similar type of prototype UFC fighters, big heavy hitters. Close the distance, get in there, Rozenstruik, cash his ticket. His knockout props at plus 210, that definitely caught my eye. I don't really want to bet Volkov in this spot here, but this is not a main event that I really want to put a lot of money on. We got 10 straight weeks of UFC. You don't need to go all for it just because you see plus money on the underdog by knockout.
Yeah, I mean, you don't got to go crazy, but at the same time, if you feel like he's got a good chance, you can always take a 1-unit shot. It's all about money management. It's all about discipline. But listen, there's a lot of things to talk about matchup-wise. For example, Alexander Volkov, being as long as he is, there's advantages and there's disadvantages. We're in the small cage here, which actually, in my opinion, favors Jairzinho because he's going to have less room to cover to close that distance with those aforementioned big bombs. Also, one thing I've always liked about Rozenstruik is his kick returns, man. I mean, you throw a combo at him and he's coming right back at you with a nice kick return. Those kick counters.
Sakai learned his lesson.
You said what?
Sakai learned his lesson about that shit.
Oh yeah, Sakai did learn. All of Jairzinho's victims inside the UFC's octagon have learned their lesson about that, man. And I mean, with Volkov, I mean, the key to beating a much taller man, there's 2 ways. You can take him down and neutralize him, which we know that Jairzinho Rozenstruik's not going to do. So the other way is you chop down the tree, eventually get him to lower his hands, and when it's time to go upstairs, that's when you close the show. So for Volkov, I mean, he's got to keep this on the outside. He's got to not let Jairzinho close that distance. He's got to pop him with the jabs. He's got to use those long man moves, the teep kicks. Even I like one combo that he does where he goes leg kick to body kick and just kind of rack up the volume, kind of win the minutes, and not let Jairzinho have those big moments throughout the fight.
Do you think that the switch to American Top Team is going to help Rozenstruik here in this fight? Because, my boy Boston Nick said he's been down there training, moved to Miami. He's trying to change his lifestyle. I don't know if I'm really buying it, but I'm going to have to buy it a little bit this week. Are you in agreement?
I mean, it's not that I'm not in agreement. I mean, to me, I don't really care where he trained. To me, it's more just about what's actually going to happen in this fight and the approach and how is he going to execute these tactics that need to happen to defeat a much taller opponent? He could be training in his garage. He could be training at King's MMA. He could be training down in Suriname, like, for all I care. What really matters here is, are we going to chop down these leg kicks? Are we going to chop him down with leg kicks? And are we going to close the distance and catch him? And one thing I got to say about Volkov, and this might be speculation, this might be narrative, but I truly think that the Cyril Gane fight for Volkov, I felt like that was his Super Bowl. That was a title eliminator. That was his chance. Whoever wins that fight gets the next title shot. And I just haven't seen the same Volkov since. People like to talk about this recency bias because of the Aspinall fight, but I did bet Aspinall there at Dog Money, by the way. But I mean, to me, I noticed it in the Tybura fight. In that Tybura fight, I was like, yo, like, Alex, like, what's going on? Like, was it an off night? Was it a sign of a decline? And I think that the very next fight against Tom Aspinall let us know that, you know what, maybe it was a bit of a sign of a decline. And I get it. Volkov's still a young guy, especially for heavyweight standards, because a lot of these times with the heavyweights, they actually don't hit their peak until their late 30s or even sometimes their 40s. I've seen guys go out there and do amazing things. I mean, I know you remember back in the day when my boy Randy Couture won that belt. What was he, like 45, 46?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
And that was like one of the first UFC fighters I ever watched.
Exactly. But times have changed. And the thing about Volkov is that he's not a guy who's only had 15 to 20 fights. I mean, we're dealing with a guy who this is about to be his 45th professional fight that we know of, right? Because as we've been talking about today with these Tapology records, and shout out to Tapology, a lot of like fights are off record. So all that we know about is that officially it's going to be his 45th pro fight, but being that my boy's from Russia, I know he's had a couple scraps here and there that aren't on the record. But what I'm trying to get at is that I haven't seen that same hungry Volkov that we know and love. We were joking around at times talking about, oh, this 265-pound Volkov is this mythical creature. He's sitting down on his punches now. And actually, that last fight, he didn't weigh in at 265. Let me actually double check what he did weigh in at. He actually tried to lose a little bit of weight, which in theory seemed like a smart idea because Tom Aspinall is a mobile guy for heavyweight. So actually Volkov came in weighing in at 253. For the Tybura fight, he was actually at 265. So 265 Volkov was the guy that we were like, hey man, maybe this is the guy that can make a title run, but now he's dropping weight. And I just don't see the same hunger. I just don't see even the same durability that I once saw. And again, it's not recency bias just because Aspinall, who I think is an animal, went out there and finished him in the first round. That Tybura fight was where the drop-off happened. I really
especially
think
at minus 300, bro.
Minus 300 where?
Oh, and the Tybura fight. When he was fighting Tybura, he's minus 300. Big parlay piece that week.
Yeah, he did not cover that tag at all. It's just that Cyril Gane fight was so demoralizing because, I mean, that was your opportunity to get your title shot. You didn't reach your goal. Every fighter's goal is to be a world champion. And after that, it was kind of like, man, like, shit, like, do I have it anymore? So I kind of see these last two performances as lackluster, as unmotivated. And with Jairzinho, he's had his ups and downs too, but I never saw a guy who lost focus. I never saw a guy who, lost his will, lost his confidence. I see a guy, when I hear him talk, he's talking about how he still wants to improve on all areas of the game. He still has aspirations to be a UFC world champion, and mentality is huge in the sport, Billy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, man. I definitely agree with the assessment. I feel like Volkov, man, at the end of the day, man, if you're going to the betting window and betting that minus 160, I just don't see what are you going to do? Parlay? You're going to bet it straight? I think there's better lines on the cards.
Yeah. So for me, I actually think, look, I know that Jairzinho Rozenstruik is a low volume guy, and I know that Volkov is most likely going to win the minutes per se, but I think that Jairzinho has a way of kind of slowing down these fights and making people hesitant to throw volume on him. I mean, unless we're talking about Cyril Gane, who's a phenom and
that doesn't count.
Who moves differently than most heavyweights, right? But the reason why I think the volume that people are expecting from Volkov might not quite be here in this Jairzinho Rozenstruik fight is because Jairzinho is a very solid counter fighter. You start to let something go against a guy like him, and like we talked about the kick returns. Well, what about those hands, man? What about that leaping left hook? What about the way he goes inside leg kick and then he sets you up with something big up top? And against a taller man, yeah, they do have advantages. I mean, the length, the reach, all that, but they also have disadvantages. That tall man defense, that chin straight up in the air. You start backing up against a guy like Rozenstruik, and it might be bad news. So actually, I'm going with the underdog here. I'm not sitting here saying it's max bet season. I'm not sitting here saying to make a big bet, but plus 140, plus 145 odds, I might take a 1-unit shot against Volkov, who I do think has seen better days, is not performing at the level that he was a few years ago. And again, it's not recency bias because of the Aspinall fight, where I did bet Aspinall. I noticed this in the Tybura fight. That Tybura fight was a big drop off. The subsequent fight against Aspinall added insult to injury. And I think Saturday night in Las Vegas, Nevada, live at the Apex, I think Jairzinho Rozenstruik is going to knock out Alexander Volkov.
I think you even chase it, man. 11 out of 12 wins in his career have been by knockout. I think you go for the knockout prop. I feel like a lot of his win condition relies heavily on the knockout prop. If this hits the scorecards, I don't know if Biggie Boy is going to get the gentleman's rub.
So some people in the comments, I like to address the comments. Firstly, thank you all for being here. Smash that like button for me. Hit the subscribe button. So some dude said, not every fighter's goal is to be champ. Come on, bro. Oh, really? So you're telling me like when they first started fighting, they didn't want to be the world champ? And then someone else said, Lewis doesn't want to be champ. Yeah, now Lewis doesn't want to be champ. But when he got his title shot, trust me when I tell you, Lewis wanted to bring that belt back to Texas. You mean to tell me that Lewis woke up every day thinking, nah, I don't want to be the heavyweight champ. I want to go out there and lose and let everybody down. You're telling me that that's what he's saying? Maybe now after a couple losses, he realizes that, you know what, it's not going to work out, so let's keep stacking up these paychecks. But once he made it to that number one contender spot where he did, I mean, he beat Ngannou, he beat Volkov, he made it to that title shot. You mean to tell me he didn't want to win that UFC belt when he got his opportunity? I call bullshit, my man. So I disagree with you 100% on that comment. But that being said, my point here is that I think Jairzinho still has title aspirations. With Volkov, it's not that, look, I know Volkov would love to be champ. I know he puts his head on his pillow and probably dreams about holding that belt. It's just reality's got to set in at some point. These last 3 performances have kind of shown that, maybe you're not quite there. Whereas I think Jairzinho still has a little bit more hope. But tactically speaking, you got to close that distance. You got to plant one on this guy's chin. You got to chop him down with leg kicks. And is Volkov going to throw, a wild card here? Is Volkov going to try to mix in a takedown or two, which he's not really known for, Billy?
Yeah, no, this is going to be a striking fight. This is going to be a striking fight on the feet for 15 minutes. And not for 15 minutes, 25 minutes. And at that case, I'm going to take the shot on the underdog here. I don't think you bet the money line, though. I would say you want to attack this on the prop market, like I said in the beginning of the breakdown, on FanDuel, Rozenstruik, knockout, or Volkov decision. Minus 155, that is the best bet in this fight.
So, anything else we got to say about this main event? I think we covered it pretty decently.
Yeah, no, it was a good main event coverage. I like the way you broke that down.
If I think of anything else, we'll come back to it. Same with you. Let me know. Now, co-main event in the featherweight division, we got Dan 50K Ige. He's 15-5, taking on Movsar Evloev, who is 15-0. Currently, they got it. Movsar Evloev, depends where you look, minus 400. The comeback on Dan Ige also depends where you look. Plus 330, plus 325. It just depends. So a lot of people are saying, and the big debate here is the line wide or not? What do you think? What's your take on that? Is the line wide? Is it justified? What is this, dog or pass? Is it just pass? Or is there value on a guy like Evloev, who myself called him Little Khabib back when he was on the regional scene?
I think this is the way this card's set up. There's a bunch of big favorites. You're going to have to parlay a little bit to make a little bit of cash. So when you look at the Evloev line, at first you're like, minus 350, and then you start seeing it rise up to minus 400. Is Dan K 50K Ige really that guy to really stop the hype train of Evloev? I don't think so. I'm not buying into this training with Justin Gaethje shit. But I will say that 550 by decision prop would be the way to bet it, because Evloev, most of his fights go to decision. He's the good parlay piece because he's been in some tough situations before in his UFC career. Mike Grundy had him in a couple of submissions. He's gotten out of it. So it feels like he's gotten through that little hump of, when you bet a big favorite, you kind of get sketched out when you've seen all of their highlights have just been dominant performances. But the Mike Grundy fight, the Nick Lentz fight, the Hakeem Dawodu fight, that all just solidified that Evloev is the guy. Is he going to get the finish on this one? I hope not. I mean, and also the bookies don't think so either. At minus 175 for a decision prop, man, that's damn near a money line for some of these fights on this card. But I will be parlaying Evloev this weekend. It's not going to give me the warm and fuzzies, but you can do what you got to do on these type of cards, man. You got 3 to 4 different favorites that are basically minus 400 or more. So you just got to do what you got to do, parlay it up. I wouldn't really want to attack this from a prop market, because let's say if Ige isn't durable enough and he does get finished, and we do see Evloev, I mean, he's almost gotten a lot of finishes before, but a lot of the people that he's fought in his career are just low volume fighters. Ige is going to bring him to action. This could be the fight that could really set off Evloev's career. I think he's ready for it.
I mean, it just depends if you see value at that price. That's the bottom line, because, for example, there's a minus 600 to start off the card, and it's just about, is there value on the line or not? I mean, people associate value only with underdogs. To me, I associate value with value. Like, for example, if I see a minus 150 that I think should be a minus 300, well, that's value. But here it's just, minus 400. We're talking about steep lines. We're talking about MMA. We're talking about, the Rakic fight. He dominates Jan in round 2, lays on top of him the entire round, blows his knee out in round 3. So, you got to just be accepting of the fact that things like that can happen. But to circle back to your point about, the Grundy fight, which I'm glad you brought up, because this ain't something we can't just gloss over the fact that, he escaped the submission attempt, give him a pat on the back. Like, dude, that was a locked in Darce choke that, like, you have to not only have incredible technique, but you have to have incredible heart, resolve, and to not just do something like that in the practice room, but to do something like that under the bright lights with all the pressure when the lights are starting to go dim and you're about to be choked unconscious. And it's a matter of making a split second decision to escape that. He created the littlest of space just to escape that choke. And those are the signs that you see of a future world champion, or at least a future top 5 guy. Like, those are the kind of things that guys like that will do. And that just impressed me so much. And especially for me, not trying to, I ain't no pro fighter, but, I am a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Just got my purple belt last week. Shout out to my professor. Thank you. I competed. For you all that didn't check out my last episode about the competition. So I won my first match 14-0, and it was up 3 weight classes at light heavyweight. And then my gold medal match, it ended up being 0-0. I was on top of the guy, but he had a cross collar choke attempt. So the ref had to make a decision. They raised his hand. It's all good. It taught me a lesson. You got to make things more decisive. But after that, it was like, you know what? Like, I got my purple belt 2 days later. So my professor was very proud of my performance. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because, like, I can only imagine being locked in on a tight Darce choke where it's like, you got to make a split second decision there. Like, you go one wrong way, you're getting choked unconscious. Like, and you look back at like a fight between, we're going to talk about that chick Karinne Silva. You look at her fight on Contender Series when she got that girl with the guillotine, and like, while the guillotine was locked in, her opponent wasn't even fighting the hands. Her opponent was already reaching her hand out, getting ready to tap 2 seconds later. Like, that's some shit you'll never see Movsar Evloev do. Movsar Evloev was so poised. He was so focused. in that little moment he had to escape that choke from Grundy. And once he did that, he went on to dominate the fight and show what, a potential future champion can do. And Dan Ige, I mean, what can I say, man? The guy is Hawaiian, which usually Hawaiians are associated with serious toughness and durability. They hit extremely hard. And I think Dan Ige has those qualities as well, man. I mean, the guy is tough as nails. I've seen the guy go out there with one eye completely closed, and he'll still try to win the fight. So Dan Ige has got all my respect, man. Swings big bombs, isn't half bad on the ground. I've even seen him go out there and gas out in fights and then go out there and win the very next round. So like Dan Ige is as tough as they come. I just kind of view Dan Ige as, a solid borderline top 15 guy, whereas I see Movsar Evloev having that top 5 potential, having potentially challenging for a title one day down the line. And one thing that I've been talking about for a long time is these guys that can relentlessly shoot takedown after takedown after takedown without getting discouraged. Because you see some guys like you look at that fight between, we're going to talk about, actually, we're not going to talk about William Knight. We're going to talk about people that fought William Knight, but William Knight versus Cody Brundage on the Contender Series. So Cody Brundage, he got the first takedown, but when the second one didn't work, he was discouraged. He was ready to go home. You stuff Movsar Evloev's first, second, third, fourth, fifth takedowns. You don't give a fuck. He's still going to keep shooting and shooting and shooting. And that's the kind of stuff that discourages your opponent. So you look at a guy like Bryce Mitchell, he can do the exact same thing. You look on a higher level at a guy like Islam Makhachev or even the great Khabib Nurmagomedov, the guys that can just chain takedown after takedown after takedown, they don't get discouraged when they get stuffed. You're going to make a lot of money on those guys as long as the prices are reasonable. So that's the debate here. Is that minus 400 reasonable? I'm not sure. So someone said, would I pick Evloev against Topuria? Yeah, I would. I know that sounds controversial to a lot of people, but like, dude, like you're telling me this dude who lost a round to Yusuf Zalal, a guy who almost got knocked out by Jay Herbert, you think I'm worried about that with Evloev? Like, I get Topuria is a badass. I get he's got a lot of heart. And I also think he's a potential future top 15 guy if he's not already. But there's a difference between being top 15 and being top 5 or possibly being a future title contender. And that's the kind of regard I hold Movsar Evloev in. So, yeah, I got Movsar over Dan Ige, and I also got him over Topuria, Billy.
Yeah, no doubt. I would say to the public, don't get fooled by the 50K Ige nickname, man. That's just because this is going to be fight of the night. It's going to go all 3 rounds. Evloev's going to win this by decision. He's going to keep the hype train rolling. Ige, man, is just like, I just seen him be durable, but like being durable isn't a good trait, man. You're still getting your ass beat throughout a 15-minute fight. Is he going to be able to throw up enough volume? I don't know, man. If he defends one takedown, I don't think he's going to defend the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, because the way Evloev change wrestles, he's going to try to go in for a single leg. You defend the single leg, he's going to go in for a double leg. Oh, you want to defend the double leg? Bang, judo trip. Like, he's got it all in the package, man. Definitely, at the beginning of the week, I wish I wasn't so hesitant at the minus 350 price tag, but I waited a little bit too long. But we're still on the hype train. I'm going to parlay him up this weekend with somebody else later on the card.
So Justin says Ige might be too small for the division. I mean, yeah, he is a shorter guy, but he's a stocky, thick guy, and for him to make 35s, man, it would take a lot out of him. And also, he's beat former 55ers. I mean, I know the Edson fight was controversial, but he still went out there and beat a guy who many would consider a larger man. So I don't think the weight class is the issue. I just think that at a certain point you hit your ceiling, and Dan Ige just, I'd say, fringe top 15 guy, just a tough guy that'll give a lot of people a very honest match. I mean, even against Josh Emmett, gets dropped in the first round, comes back, in my opinion, wins the second round. So I think that Dan Ige is one of those guys that's going to hang around. He's going to just give you everybody a tough fight. And if you're not quite ready for his level, Billy, like, this guy will go out there and start you. This guy will go over there and dance all over you. And but back to this talk about, is it going to be a decision or a finish? Now, historically speaking, most of these Evloev fights have been decisions. He went out there at the media day. He said he's going to finish him in the first round. Now, obviously, talk is cheap, as we know, but maybe he sees something. What do you think about that?
Nah, there's a language barrier, because if you watch it, he was doing the translation. He barely knew English. They were asking him, how do you feel about your English? He was like, after this fight, I'm going to touch it up because I know I'm going to get more fights and stuff like that. So everyone wants to say the right thing, but I believe a little bit more from a dude that speaks English. You got to give me that Alonzo Menifield feeling where you say, if I don't win this fight, I don't think I'm paying off the rent this month.
Damn, that's some big words. Featured bout also in the featherweight division. We got Mike Trizano, he's 9-2, taking on Lucas Almeida, who is 13-1. Currently, they got it. Michael Trizano minus 220, or some places minus 240. The comeback on Lucas Almeida, everywhere from plus 180 to plus 200. And I'm very excited about this fight because they're kind of polar opposite. Look, they're both strikers on paper, but they fight in a very different way. You got Trizano, who kind of has that kind of point touch kind of style, whereas Lucas Almeida, I mean, I wish this guy trained out of shoot the box. Let me double check where he trains out of, man, because he fights like a shoot the box guy. I've actually never heard of his team, Kiyoshi. I'm not sure if that's correct, but that's what it says on Tapology. But this is a dude that'll go out there and he's going to stand and bang until one man falls. And he's actually never fell before, but he has lost a decision. We'll talk about that in a sec. But what do you think about the dynamic of this fight with kind of the point striker, the kind of, I want to say volume guy, but Trizano's volume isn't even that high, but he's kind of more of a touch guy, whereas Lucas Almeida is kind of a kill guy.
Well, watching some of the interviews this week, Trizano was talking about how he was a little bit frustrated about some of his last performances and he wants to go out here and go for the kill. So that's not really what I've seen in the film, though. That's kind of goes against what I really feel. And he's busted at some price tags before. I mean, fight not to go to distance is plus 120. I feel like Almeida, though, he could be a sneaky guy to watch in this fight because, I mean, he fought the Golden Boy, the Mexican, not Ryan Garcia, the other Golden Boy on the Contender Series during COVID. And, man, that was one of the best Contender Series fights of that year in 2021. They were going at it. I mean, obviously, Golden Boy had a huge reach advantage in that fight, and that was kind of like the synopsis of the fight was that he was just longer to the punch. But he showed a lot of durability in there because I remember coming into that fight, I was a little bit skeptical about his gas tank, but he went the distance, and then he came out that next one, wherever the fuck the jungle fight was, did his thing, did what he's supposed to do against a regional scene opponent. Mike Trizano, on the other hand, I feel like he's just busted at a couple of these price tags where I feel like this 280 price tag should be really minus 150, minus 165, minus 175, somewhere around that price range. Maybe I'll be a little bit more inclined to bet Mike Trizano, but I think this is one that you want to sit back, chill, watch, enjoy. And if this goes past 10 minutes, maybe going into that third round, you'll get a better idea. I think it's a live betting fight. It's definitely one that I've circled for, sitting at the crib watching this fight card, early afternoon card this week. So I'm pretty blessed for it.
Let me say something about Lucas Almeida's Contender Series fight, because yeah, on paper you could say, oh, well, he's never won a decision, so therefore he must be first round or bust. And also the output waned significantly. You know, he threw like 50 something strikes round one. It dropped down to 20 something in round 2 and 3. Whereas, I mean, still 20 strikes per round is still pretty decent. It's just the first round was at a frantic pace. And honestly, man, some of those shots he was landing on that kid, the kid, the Mexican kid,
Golden Boy.
What's his name?
They call him the Golden Boy in Mexico.
Golden Boy,
yeah.
Dude. Some of the shit. What's his name? Behuler. Let me just look up his name real quick.
It's weird. He never fought in the UFC yet. He got signed a minute ago.
He's fighting Trey Ogden, as far as I know. Zell Huber. Okay, so dude, the chin on Zell Huber is something that I haven't seen in a long time. It's like you hit this guy with a baseball bat and then he just smiles at you and keeps going forward. And those kind of things have got to discourage you, because it's like you hit this guy with the kind of shots that knocked out like 10 other guys on your regional scene. And this dude's just like smiling at you, waving you on. And they weren't soft shots. These were concussive blows. And the reason I bring that up is because not saying that Trizano can't take it, but what I am saying is that a lot of people are going to be feeling these shots. And that Zell Huber guy, that chin is something to behold. So just because Lucas has never won a decision, that doesn't mean that he can't win a decision. Like we see it all the time, guys that, you know, have historically been, you know, KO or bust or this or that, they eventually go out there and win decisions. And there was a fight recently, you know, people were talking about, oh yeah, the Medic versus Omar Morales fight. People were saying, oh, Medic is a bust past round 1. And I think there needs to be a distinction. look, you're a bust past round one if you've busted past round one. Whereas Medic, he simply never went past round one more than once, and he actually won that fight. So you can't call someone round one or bust just because people can't get past the first round with them. You can call them round one or bust if they start significantly gassing out past round one. If they start quitting, if they start doing this or that. So I
Well,
didn't.
if anything, though, I hate to interrupt you. If anything, if you're going out here on the regional scene and you're going to decisions with these guys, I'm more concerned about that than the dude that's trashing the trash cans.
Right. Right. You feel me? So what I'm trying to say is I'm not convinced that Lucas is all of a sudden going to lose just because the fight goes past round one. Because what I saw in that fight with Zellhuber was, dude, like some of those shots, like that Mexican toughness and durability, similar to Hawaiian fighters, is just something genetic. It's something you're born with. It's something you can't teach in the gym. And I'm not convinced that just because Zellhuber was able to eat knockout blow after knockout blow and stay standing, that some of these other guys can. And I don't like the volume on the Trizano side. Now, if they both go to a boxing gym right now, who's the boxing coach going to say, has the cleaner hands and is the more technical guy and this and that? Probably Trizano. Okay. I mean, he comes from Tiger Schulman. He's very technically sound. I mean, those guys, they're hand fighting, just everything. Their shots come down the middle. Like I like what they do. It's just that when you got this wild man, Lucas Almeida, coming at you, and he's known for that power. And I'm not convinced that just because this insanely gifted chin of Zellhuber was able to eat it, that these other guys will. And I'm not saying Trizano is going to get knocked out, but what I am saying is that there might be more impact when he eats those shots compared to when, Golden Boy ate those shots. So honestly, look, I'm not sitting here confidently saying that Lucas is going to win the fight, because you have to respect the UFC experience of a guy like Trizano. UFC experience counts for a lot, my man. But what I am saying is at plus 200, like I wouldn't mind taking, a 1 unit shot and just to see
I
what
think
this
the way
guy's
you
got.
attack it, though, Dan, instead of betting the plus 200, play it in DraftKings. Why not take that little underdog shot on DraftKings, put in the lineup? There's a couple of big favorites on this card. There's a lot of underdogs on this card. I definitely feel like Almeida could be one of the underdogs that are going to go lower owned on that DraftKings slate this weekend.
I mean, it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Nah, I don't want to get too invested, because if you start getting too invested on the first fight in a 10-week period, you're going to be falling on your face by the end of June.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why 1 unit. That's why you don't go crazy. That's why you don't put 3, 4, 5 units when there's all those unknowns. However, you have a good number at plus 200 and you take that shot. And then, you take a shot at another dog. You only need, and you put the same amount on both. You only need one of them to win to come out profitable. So, like, those are kind of the things I like to do. If Lucas was a minus 170 favorite here, well, then I'd sit back and relax and maybe even consider taking a shot on the guy with the UFC experience. It's just, I just can't get behind laying minus 2 something on a guy like Trizano, who often doesn't make it decisive enough. Like even some of these fights he's won, like the Ludovic Klein fight, like I didn't really think he won at the time. Now looking back at it, I understand why he got it. He kind of did break Klein towards the end of that fight, and maybe he breaks Lucas Almeida toward the end of the fight. But the point I'm trying to make is, if this is going to be that split decision type fight, I'd much rather be on the plus 200 than the minus 2 something. And back to the bankroll management, that's why you take that 1 unit shot. That's why you take that half unit shot, 1.5 units. That's why you don't go crazy, because this guy is going to come to fight. This guy is going to go out there and try to fight for your money, and he's not just going to lay down like like this guy we're about to talk about with the padded record here soon. So
yeah, I think this is 40 cents too off. It's sitting at plus 196. If I had to be an odds maker, I would feel comfortable betting this up until like plus 150, plus 140. So I don't know if I'm going to hit the betting window with it. I kind of like some other shots on this card because there's some really good props to attack on this card. But if you're sitting there on the main card and you're looking to make some money, I definitely think Almeida could be one of the underdogs that are going to be barking on this main card.
So DMO said, I don't go by that value bullshit. I go by who's gonna win the fight. So like you're gonna lay like minus 1,000 on someone just because they're gonna win the fight. Like that's how you
No,
feel, man.
Nah, not in that way. I would say if you're in a situational scenario, you see this on the Contender Series all the time. We're getting 5 fights offered. All of them are minus 300 or more. Do what you got to do, man. You're betting the number.
Exactly. You're betting the number and you're using proper bankroll management and discipline. And a lot of dogs come through, especially when I don't know who's going to win this fight, but I have a feeling it's going to be a close split decision type fight. I got plus 200 on the other side. Why wouldn't I take that shot? Like, that's how. Oh, he's saying pass on big favorites. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you, man. Like, pass on a big favorite when I think that it's going to be, this close ass fight that could go either way. And not to mention, I think that Almeida's got the knockout potential in this spot. Whereas Trizano, I think he has to squeak by a closely contested decision. And if it's going to be a closely contested decision, I want to be on the plus 200, not the minus 2 something.
Yeah, I would agree 1,000% with that assessment. I feel like at the end of the day, if you're gonna parlay Mike Trizano, don't even think about doing it, man. You might get a better live line than what you would pre-flop. 260 for Trizano. Pass.
I mean, if you're laying minus 260 on Trizano and he loses a split decision, I don't want to fucking hear shit about robbery. That's all I got to say. Now, next up in the flyweight division, this is another one that a lot of people have been talking about. We got Poliana Botelho. She's 8-4, taking on Karinne, it's actually pronounced, Silva, who is 14-4. Currently, they got it. Karinne Silva, she's minus 120. The comeback on Poliana Botelho is plus 100. So I guess one of the big narratives I've been hearing is that, Poliana Botelho is a gasser. And I can't disagree with that. She does tend to slow down past round one. But, only one of these two ladies has won a decision before in their careers, and that's Poliana Botelho. And not to mention, Karinne Silva, man, she did seem to be fading in that Contender Series fight. She ended up hitting a nasty guillotine, which, I'm a fan of the guillotine. But basically what I'm trying to say is this is another one of those coin flip fights that I'm not sure what's going to happen. And I think that's going to be very exciting while it's on the feet. It's just if one of them can get on top and steal around that way, like, I agree with this being lined to pick him, Billy.
I actually don't agree with this fight being lined to pick him. I think this could be one of those lines where it could be similar to another Brazilian like Melissa Gatto when she came into the UFC. It was kind of like, this could be a pick 'em. She's at dog odds. Well, then take the shot, because if she does get a finish over Botelho, who hasn't really looked too good in the UFC, we might not see minus 120 ever again. That is actually on my betting card is going to be Karinne Silva money line. While I would say I'm a little bit scared of the gas tank, like you stated a little bit, I just think this line is a little bit too short. I think that if she gets a finish in this fight, like she's shown a lot of her regional scene, man, she was out here just marking these girls, man. But, the Contender Series fight, do I really think that Chinese chick was that good? I don't know, man. It felt like she had a little bit of an inflated record, but I don't think
Just a little bit. Just a
little bit. 20-3, just a little bit. 20-3 at 26. When were you taking fights? But Botelho, man, I am not the Botelho fan. I have never been a Botelho believer. I'm not a fan of her. I see a lot of people taking the dog shot, fade the Contender Series debutante, but this isn't the spot, man. I'm telling you. So it's going to cash this minus 120, minus 130 ticket, and she's going to prove a lot of doubters wrong, and it's going to look like a short line. I think that she's going to get a finish. On the fight card for the main card, you start looking at it a little bit. You're like, who's going to get a finish? Who's going to get a finish? One fight that is really going to go under the radar is going to be this one, man. I feel like there's not a lot of information on it. The bookies set these type of lines where they let the public kind of decide where the action is going to be taken. And I just don't think that Karinne Silva should be a minus 120. I feel like this should be more closer to like a minus 150. So am I going to take the shot in the debutante? I think I am, man. Straight money line shot, though. No parlay on this one.
Tell me why, though. I mean, tell me why she should be a bigger favorite. Because, look, here's some things we can agree on. Has Poliana Botelho historically, past round one, have things kind of gone downhill? 100%. I mean, I was in attendance when she fought Lauren Mueller in Atlanta, Georgia in round 3. Shit got sketchy, my man. I haven't forgotten that. But I also, to give her credit, in that first round, she comes out super aggressive as well. And what I like about Karine Silva, another one who's very, very aggressive, she comes to fight. I mean, these two are going to scrap. That's the bottom line. It's just what happens past round one, because those have always been the question marks for Poliana, but I actually have those same question marks for Karine Silva. So how do you kind of see, why do you think that Karine should be the distinct favorite here?
Well, bringing it back to my girl Gatto, man, I feel like there's a couple of times in women's MMA where if you bet on the unknown, it's going to hit. And I feel like just on the regional scene, it just looks like the record isn't all there. You see the Contender Series fight, and then you really start watching the fight tape, and you see this girl's going after it, man. She's choking these people out. She's knocking these people out. She goes for it. Botelho does not go for it. Maybe Botelho's gassing out because she isn't good. Silva's gassing out because she's going for it. She's throwing a lot of volume. A lot of time in women's MMA, you're kind of like on the fence, and you're like, fuck, man, why did I bet this girl? I thought she was going to go for a lot of volume, and then they kind of just go to a measly decision. Now, Silva's going to fight for your money. She's going to try to go for the finish. And if she does gas out, I feel like she still has a little bit more in the gas tank. She could be up 2 rounds on the third, drop the third, and still win a decision. I think there's a lot more win conditions.
I feel you on that. I'm just still, UFC experience counts for a lot in my book. So, but at the same time, I do like the fact that, like you said, Karine Silva, she does go for it. So she's got that going for her. I'm just on the fence on this one. I need to see how she performs under the UFC lights, but I'm not here to talk you off of her. Like, you have conviction on her, like go hit it.
This is going to be one of the ones, coming out the same as Zach. Town is my girl Gatto. You just got to ride with these type of prospects, man. And just, just because the person's coming off the Contender Series, that isn't a valid reason to fade somebody.
I never said it was. I mean, Sodiq Yusuff came off the Contender Series. Tons of amazing fighters that I love. Jamal Hill came off the Contender Series. So I don't agree with this whole bullshit. Oh, just because they come off Contender Series, let's fade them. And it's like, to me, it's like case by case basis. So you're not going to get that analysis from me. The analysis you are going to get from me is that while Poliana Botelho does have that reputation for fading past round one, I mean, Karine Silva, it's not like Karine Silva's out here winning decisions. And I also saw Karine Silva start to slow down in her last fight too. She got the opportunistic guillotine. Got to give her credit for that. And she could also get something opportunistic here against Botelho, who we've also seen slow down past the first round too. So I'm not saying that that's not going to be the case. All I am saying is that I'm not sure. It's a coin flip for me. So I'm gonna flip a coin real quick. We got
finally we're not agreeing on a fight here. I feel like the people in the public were like, oh, they're agreeing a little bit too much.
Who do you want to? Who should be heads, Botelho or Karine?
Well, answering that question, I'd rather get head from Botelho. So we're gonna go with that.
Well, she's into women, so
I girls like girls. I'm with that shit too.
Oh man, landed on tails. So I guess, all right, this is good. Disagreement. You go with Karine, I'm gonna go with Botelho, and may the best woman win. And it's happy Pride Month to everybody celebrating. Now, next up in the men's flyweight division, we got Ode Osbourne. He's 10-4, taking on Zarrukh Adashev, who is 4-3. Currently, they got it. Ode Osbourne minus 185. The comeback on Zarrukh Adashev is plus 160. Billy, man, this kid Ode Osbourne, he's about as big as you can get for a flyweight, man. Like, that, like, he cannot cheat one time on his diet to make this weight. Like, he's got to be on point every step of the way. Whereas Zarrukh Adashev, you know that my boy can go out there, take one cheat meal per week, no big deal. He's gonna make that weight. But for Ode Osbourne, like, he's got to be dialed in. And I'll tell you what, it seems like he is dialed in. One thing I like about Ode Osbourne a lot, and he was actually one of my favorite fighters on his season of Contender Series. I always noticed the talent. I like the fact that, like, it used to be a thing where he'd get taken down and he would just be attacking dudes for subs off his back. But now I really like how he's using his range. His striking is developing. But what I was getting back to is that this is a guy that stepped outside his comfort zone, because, he was training at that gym in Milwaukee with Montel Jackson and all of them. And word on the street was that, certain people weren't showing up to the gym. He wasn't getting the looks that he wanted. So he actually moved to Vegas, I believe. And now he's
He's at
training.
Syndicate, right?
Yeah, he's training like a true professional fighter, which I like. And Zarrukh Adashev, I know he's 4-3, but he's also got an extensive kickboxing record. I think he's a bit better than his record shows. So how do you kind of see this one going, man? Because you got the ultra talented and not just in terms of skills, but also athletically speaking. And Ode Osbourne taking on a guy in Zarrukh Adashev, who he's the smaller guy, but he's got some decent. He's better than his 4-3 record indicates. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, with Osbourne, man, this fight actually opened up at -150, ballooned up to -200 where it's sitting right now, and it could probably balloon up even more by the time fight time goes off. I feel like Adashev was just a product of COVID for the UFC, where they're assigning these fringe UFC fighters, giving them fights. He's on the last fight of his contract here, and I feel like this is just a build-up fight for Ode Osbourne. Sitting at -200, I mean, he's getting better and better. So what? He got knocked out by Manel Kape. Manel Kape is actually, I think Manel Kape is good.
Me too,
Ode
and early stoppage.
Yeah, early stoppage. I feel like with Ode Osbourne, just the only concern that I would say is sometimes it feels like he gets into these backyard battle fights where he's just swinging for the fences, swinging back. And at that point, who's to say Adashev can't swing back a little bit of power? But I think the reach advantage is really going to be the key here in this fight. 66-inch reach for Adashev, standing at 5'4". Like you said, Ode Osbourne, one of the bigger flyweights in the division. I feel like there's levels to this shit. And Ode Osbourne at -200, I feel like that's one of the best reasonable price tags on the whole entire board this week. If you caught that opener at -150, you're sitting pretty happy. We talked about a little bit of line value, but this is line value that's going to cash because Ode Osbourne is going to get this finish over Adashev.
Yeah, I've had pretty decent results betting on Ode Osbourne and fading Zarrukh Adashev, So I did bet Ode Osbourne in the Brian Kelleher fight, lost, but then I won on him against Jerome Rivera and against CJ Vergara. So I like betting this guy, and man, I feel like he's so talented, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet of what he's capable of. And it's not just the athletic traits. It's not even just the techniques. He's only 30 years old, man. So he's just slowly entering his prime. And I feel like once he starts to feel comfortable at flyweight, once he's got that weight cut dialed in, I think we're going to start to see some big things from him. Because like even in that Manel Cap fight where, officially on paper, he got knocked out. I personally thought it was an early stoppage, especially considering that Ode Osbourne's a guy that's known for fighting off his back. Like, give the guy a little bit of time to recover. But regardless of that, I thought he was looking really good in that fight, man. I thought it was 50-50 until the time that he got caught with that beautifully timed flying knee by another guy who was one of the most talented guys in the flyweight division. And then with Zarrukh Adashev, again, I know the record says 4-3 and this and that, but I think he's a lot better than that record indicates. I believe his kickboxing record was 17-3. So, take that for what it's worth. I mean, the guy can definitely bang. It's just that sometimes with the size disadvantage, he's going to get knocked down in fights, and not just the Tyson Nam fight, even the fight he won against Ryan Benoit, and even the other one against Suma Darji. He had some moments, but when it's about, I know he can give it, but can he take it too, especially against these kind of guys? That's what I'm kind of worried about. Like, does he need a little more experience on a smaller show before he fights here? But I still think he's better than the record indicates, so I think he might give Ode a tougher fight, but I think Ode is going to have those big moments that kind of sway the judges towards his side, or potentially even get a finish along the way. One thing that hasn't been tested is we don't know how Zarrukh Adashev's submission game is. We don't know how he is off his back. We just know how he is standing. He kind of reminds me of like a little bit of a flyweight. He's kind of got that like Frankie Edgar boxing style a little bit, the little patter circle around the cage. And, if you let him get up on points, he can go out there and win decisions. But I think that Ode Osbourne is going to be looking pretty. It's going to be looking dynamic. And I got Ode Osbourne to come out here and win another fight in the flyweight division.
Yeah, I'm shocked this line isn't a little bit more ballooned up to like -230, -250. Zarrukh Adashev, I know the 4-3 record is a little bit deceiving. He could be better than the 4-3 record, but I just think styles make fights, and this is not a good stylistic matchup for him.
Justin says Ode is like a box of chocolates. What's the rest of that quote? I don't remember.
I have no idea. I don't ever call a dude a box of chocolates. That's just not the route I go.
But does he mean you never know what you're gonna get? Because there's a quote, so and so, it's like a box of chocolates. ... Like what's the quote? Is it you never know what you're gonna get? Like is that what?
Like the old school Heart Valentine's Day chocolates where it had all a bunch of different
Yeah,
flavors?
there's some quote. I just don't fucking remember the next part of the quote. So, Justin, let us know what the next part of the quote is because I'm curious what you mean by that. I think he means you don't know what you're gonna get. So,
I think that's a little bit. I think that a little bit is recency bias from the Manel Cape fight because a lot of people were. I don't know why, but a lot of people that week I remember were betting Odi Osbourne against Manel Cape. They were saying Manel Cape was a fraud, and then he kind of shit the bed. And I feel like ever since that fight, everyone's like, "Oh, Osbourne, blah blah blah." Nah, Osbourne's going to get this finish, but the Manel Cape fight, try to wash that one out of your head because I think Manel Cape is on the rise. I'm one of the biggest Manel Cape fanboys.
okay, we were right. Yeah, it's yeah. You never know what you're gonna get. That's the other part of the quote. Yeah,
I think there's many ways, like you said, that he can win this fight. You can win this on the ground. You can win this by knockout. You can win this by decision. I think that minus 200 price tag, if you're betting minus 200, you want to know that person's going to win. I think he has multiple win conditions.
Yeah, I guess the only concern is just back to we got to know that he's dialed that weight cut. And even if he hasn't, still go out there and win 2 rounds. Lose the third one, no big deal. You still win the fight. But yeah, just once he starts to feel like flyweight is his home, like I do see a future top 15 guy in Ode Osbourne. So let's see how he handles this test. And I do agree with you. I think he comes out here and beats Zarrukh Adashev. Not sure how, though. Not sure if it's going to be a finish. Not sure if it's going to be a decision. But ultimately, am picking him for this win.
Yeah, it might be the last time you see Adashev in the UFC.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, this is his 4th fight. You know, they get 4-fight contracts. So, you know.
So I said he's on the last fight of his contract. Definitely feels like a promotional spot for Odi Osbourne to get this win, come back in August and fight somebody bigger.
At the same token, flyweight is a very shallow division, so you never know. You might use him to get someone else back on track, but it just depends how he performs. Comes out here and gets starched right away. Okay, goodbye. But let's say he loses a hard-fought decision where, you know, he shows his heart, he shows his balls, then maybe they give him another chance. But yeah, I feel where you're coming from, and the pick is also Ode Osbourne for me. Now, before I talk about this fight everybody's been looking forward to between Alonzo Menifield and Askar Mohrazov, which I believe is not even his real name. Everybody do me a huge favor and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. Truly appreciate it. Share, comment, retweet. All those little things you guys do help the show grow tremendously. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And also thank you to Billy Briz for joining me as my guest for today's show. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you for the invite, man. Longtime fan of the show.
I appreciate that. So next up in the 205-pound division, kicking off the main card, we got Alonzo Atomic Menifield. He's 11-3, taking on Askar Mohrazov, who allegedly is 19-12 now. His record's been changing by the day. Currently, they got it. Alonzo Menifield minus 220. The comeback on Askar Mohrazov is plus 180. So here's the thing about this fight. So a lot of people are talking about how, well, they just saw, you know, this Tapology record update. So now they're rushing to the window to bet Alonzo Menifield. Oh, this guy's a fraud, this and that. To me, the Tapology record update literally had zero impact on how I viewed this fight because all I had to do was watch 3 fights of this guy to know like what the deal was. I mean, I watched him knock a couple people out in like under a minute, and then I watched him go against a 14-10 guy, a guy who he was way bigger than. And the 14-10 guy got on top one time, landed an elbow, and Mohrazov tapped and, you know, said enough was enough. So basically, here's what I'm trying to get at. I understand why people are rushing to bet Menifield because this guy is a fraud, the Mohrazov, but here's what you got to understand. He's still a good hammer. I mean, he can still come out here and knock people out. He still swings concussive blows. He still has leg kicks, which is a big thing. And he throws big bombs. He can knock people out. He's got a bunch of first-round finishes. So, like, you can't just completely discount him. But what you can discount is that if he ends up in one bad spot, if he gets taken down one time, if he gets a little cut over his eye, if things don't go perfect, for Movsar, he's most likely going to look for the door. And to take it a step further, this is a guy who used to be a welterweight. Then he started taking some Flintstone vitamins, got on a nice little supplement plan. He started eating his fruits and vegetables. All of a sudden, he's going up to light heavyweight to heavyweight. He's this jacked ass dude killing these guys on the scene. Now we got USADA in the picture. Now reality's starting to set in. Now he's going to start looking a little deflated. Y'all remember my boy? Who's that?
Felipe Lins.
Oh, I got a better one for you. Y'all remember my boy Eric Silva back in the day? Remember when Eric Silva was fighting pre-USADA, killing everybody? All of a sudden they start those drug tests. My boy's got love handles on him and shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be one of those situations. And with Atomic Alonzo, I mean, he's a very physical guy. He's athletic, big leg kicks, big punches. I actually think his grappling is quite a bit underrated. It's just a thing where sometimes he tends to fade down the stretch. And I have seen him wobbled and hurt in a lot of fights. Not just the one he got knocked out against OSP, but even the William Knight fight. He's controlling most of the fight. He's clearly the better fighter than William Knight. But when it was Willie's turn to touch that chin, Alonzo was wobbling all over the place, and that's what cost him the fight. So although back to the UFC experience, which is something that counts for a lot in my book, I do favor Alonzo, and I think that if Alonzo can get on top of this guy one time, the fight might be over shortly after. The reason that, a lot of people are max betting Alonzo now because of this record update shit. It was like, guys, you can just go see him tap the strikes versus a 14-10 guy and know the deal without his record having to be updated. So to me, the record update, like, that don't mean shit to me. I knew the deal right when I saw him. There's still a chance that despite all this bullshit, this guy can still come out here and win by first round knockout. Like, he's still going to throw those concussive blows. It's just about Billy. Is Alonzo going to put him in that one uncomfortable spot where Askar's, ready to live the fight another day?
Well, Dan, let me tell you, it's been rough sleeping this week. When you got money on Alonzo Menifield, the PTSD dreams start coming back into play. The OSP knockout starts running into your head, and then you wake up, you're like, fuck, I might have to cash out on that ticket. In this spot, though, I'm not going to lie, my boy MMA Jewish Better, I can't take all the credit. He hit me up early in the week on, like, Memorial Day. He was blowing up my phone. He was like, dude, you got to read this article. You got to read this article. You got to read this article. I pull up this article. Dude's fighting at welterweight, dude's doing this, that, and the third. And this is after the fact that I watched a little bit of the fight tape because, I watched the fight tape late at night, a little bit of joint in me and stuff like that. And I was like, man, this dude, he could be the one to beat Alonzo Menifield. Then I actually look at the fucking records that the dudes that he was fighting. Holy shit. And the organizations, hey, man, this is just one of those products of short notice replacement. This is a line on Alonzo Menifield that is honestly egregious, in my opinion. On FanDuel, rounds 1 or 2 on Alonzo Menifield is plus 100. I feel like if this goes into the third round, shit, he might fucking lose. But I've been there, done that with Alonzo Menifield, going hammer on Alonzo Menifield before. Man, it's been rough sleeping this week, but only a couple more nights of sleep until I gotta face my demons. And no, I got money on Alonzo Menifield this weekend pretty heavily over Askar. I don't think we see Askar even in the UFC after this fight. This is one of the weirdest scenarios that you'll ever see in your life. And the thing that really caught me was the fact that when they interviewed him before the USADA suspension, he was talking about, like you said, he was at welterweight and stuff like that, and that's where the weight class that you wanted to go inside the UFC. Alonzo Menifield, I kind of had the PTSD vibes going against Fabio Charant. He went out there, did the damn thing, and he's showing more arsenal in his ground game, being at Fortis MMA. It's definitely improving his gas tank a little bit. I didn't really rate him too high against William Knight. I felt like that was a bad stylistic matchup for him. But I think this is a good stylistic matchup for Alonzo Menifield. If you watch his interviews this week, boy needs some money. He was talking about, I need this check. I need the bonus too. I got rent to pay. So I'm all over Alonzo Menifield in this spot. And Alonzo, fool me once, fool me twice, fool me the third time, I'm out.
If he fools you thrice, you're never going to do it again. But I mean, to me, speaking of PTSD, I mean, it's just like, look, Alonzo should win on principle. The UFC experience has to count for a lot, not to mention you put this guy in one bad spot, the Askar guy, and he'll live to fight another day. And Alonzo, even though he gasses out down the stretch, at least I haven't seen him quit in fights. But there's also that thing where I've seen Alonzo lose to borderline frauds too. Like,
Fucking Devin
Clark, William Knight. Like, look, I love me some William Knight in terms of watching him, but like, you can't look me in the eye with a straight face and tell me that William Knight fights with like some high class technique. My boy's out there with his chin straight up in the air. It's just he's a freak athlete, man, and that's not to discredit his hard work. That's not to discredit the fact that he made it to the UFC fair and square, like paid his dues. I'm not discrediting that at all. I'm just saying that William Knight can get away with doing things technically wrong because of his gifts. I mean, when that guy explodes, like Alonzo Menifield's like winning the whole fight a lot, and William Knight touches him one time, has him wobbling all over the place, right? It's like those little things like that. So I'm just saying, I've seen him lose to frauds before, but I do have to go with the UFC experience and just the fact that Askar, when he gets into these bad spots, tends to fold. It's just the thing to be worried about is, even if this guy's a fraud, even if his record is fake, even if he's coming off steroids and this and that, he's still going to go out there and throw bombs in the first couple minutes. So like, it's not like this guy is going to come out here, throw one kick, go to his back, and that's it. He's going to empty the clip, and in doing so, that could possibly catch Alonzo. That's what you got to be worried about. But if that doesn't happen, I think Alonzo Menifield wins this fight.
Yeah, I'm not going max bet seasoned on the first fight card back, but Alonzo Menifield is definitely going to be a heavy favorite bet for me, because it's just like, this is what we're doing nowadays, man. We're changing names. I mean, I seen the mafia and the mob down here in New Jersey before, but I guess shit hits different over there in Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine, especially coming out of Ukraine, do you think that he even had a full fight camp coming into this fight? Who knows where this guy's been? They definitely gave him a call. They said, yo, you trying to fight, man? He said, fuck it, I'm there. And there he is. Now he's about to get his ass beat by Alonzo Menifield. And this might be one. I keep on saying this to myself. This is going to be the last time I bet on Alonzo Menifield. But Alonzo, if you do this to me one more time, this is over. But yeah, I think you got to bet Alonzo Menifield. This should be a minus 300, minus 350 line. This should be closer to that Renat Verzakhanov fight earlier on the card. I feel like that should be like flop lines. Like, I feel like he should be minus 175 going up to 200, not the reverse. I think Alonzo Menifield's one of the best bets on the card this week.
And to answer your question in terms of like, what's this guy been doing, this and that, I mean, to quote my girl from Ozark, I don't know shit about fuck. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, bro. So I wish you luck on that Menifield bet. Now, headlining the prelims, we actually got a rematch between Felice Herrig, she's 14-9, taking on Karolina Kowalkawicz, who was 12-7. Currently, they got it. Felice Herrig minus 125. The comeback on Karolina Kowalkawicz is plus 105. So they fought before. Karolina Kowalkawicz won the decision. Listen, back in Karolina's day, man, she was fucking awesome. I actually cashed a plus 215 on her in Atlanta, Georgia, when she fought against Rose Namajunas. So like, she'll always have a special place in my heart for that. I've always fucked with Karolina and Felice. Not that this matters, but I didn't like how much of a bully she was to Randa Marcos on The Ultimate Fighter, and then Randa ends up submitting her in the first. That made me happy. And then also shout out to my girl Verna Janjidoba for submitting Felice in the first round easily and cashing that money. So I think both of these, with all due respect, are washed up fighters. Felice has all the injuries, all the surgeries. Karolina got diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. It's like, I wish you both the best. I think you guys are pioneers of some of the earlier stages of the strawweight division. So much respect. I'll go with the underdog who actually beat the favorite one. So let's go with Karolina to get back on track, and hopefully they both retire after this fight. And if not, hopefully they both get matched up with prospects and we can make money down the line.
This is, if you're chilling at the crib, this is the fight that you put the pizza in the oven, you go roll your blunt, you go get your drink, because I wouldn't bet this fight with $1 million in my fucking hand, man. You got Felice Herrig over here on Instagram. I couldn't tell you the last time I seen a training video of her. It's all of her OnlyFans promotions. She's coming off a 2-year layoff. Hey, the one thing I'll say about these UFC girls, go get that money. But once you start doing the OnlyFans and the feet pictures and stuff like that, your head's not in the fight game. You're worried about other different paydays. And I'm shocked that she was even still on the roster. Karolina, on the other hand, do I really want to be betting Karolina? This is the definition of a dog or pass. Man, don't bet this fight. 1-800-GAMBLER, where you at?
1-800-GAMBLER until one of them gets a first-round armbar and you look like a genius. You know what I'm
Don't
saying?
even bet the over. You know how like people always want to blindly bet the over on the chick fight for a little parlay. Oh, I don't want to bet Evloev. I'm gonna take the over on the Felice. No, don't do it, man. Don't fucking do it.
Now this one is a little bit more tricky. Next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between the serious black belt Joe Solecki, he's 11-3, taking on the very talented Alex Leko da Silva, who's 21-3. Currently, they got it. Joe Solecki -170. The comeback on Alex Leko da Silva is +145. This is a tricky one, man, because Joe Solecki is a guy I'm very familiar with from the regional scene because he was fighting here in the South. And man, his jiu-jitsu game is seriously on point. I mean, there's a guy who's so confident in his jiu-jitsu, he'll pull guard in the middle of fights, which is a big red flag, and you don't want that to happen a lot, but he's that confident. I mean, he takes your back, he gets on your neck. Chances are the fight's going to be over, and as a result, people sleep on his stand-up. Not that his stand-up is the best. You know, I've actually seen him be knocked brutally unconscious if you go back and you watch that Niklas Mata fight, but he has been working on his hands. He's been getting a lot better there. And Alex Leko da Silva, man, he's a wild card because I actually think he's super talented, man. I think that he's good everywhere. It's just sometimes this in-fight decision-making is what cost him. Like that Alexander Kovalev fight, I loved how things were going. One little mistake, and, you know, he's getting tapped out. And the Rodrigo Vargas fight handled it perfectly, but the Brad Riddell fight, you know, he even won a round against Brad Riddell, but tends to kind of slow down the stretch. I think he might even be too big for lightweight. I think the guy cuts a shit ton of weight that might impact his not. And when I say it impacts his conditioning, I mean, I know the guy's out here running his miles. For Alex Leko da Silva to make 155 pounds, this guy is putting in the strength and condition. This guy is running his miles. It's just that those weight cuts got to take so much out of him, and that's what I'm most worried about. So how do you kind of think these two match up?
This fight was, I feel like watching that Jared Gordon fight, which was Solecki's last fight, kind of gives you a read on this fight. I feel like in that fight, Jared Gordon was just a bigger guy in there, and he just got into the split decision range. But every other time, I feel like we've seen Joe Solecki dominate guys that are a little bit smaller than him. And he took a little bit of time off, took a couple grappling bouts. And if you look at grappling bouts, the people that he's fought, Gregory Rodriguez, it's like 2 weight classes up. Donald Cerrone. I mean, this is good things that you want to see out of a fighter that took a loss, the big first-time loss in his career. And I feel like Alex de Silva on the other side, I mean, he could be the guy because a lot of the public money, originally this line opened up at -200. Now it's down to -175. You see some of the money coming in on Alex de Silva. Alex de Silva, I mean, I feel like we haven't seen the best of him because you watch some of his fight tape, you see some bright spots, you see some down spots, but I feel like the big thing here is going to be fight IQ. His fight IQ isn't going to be there against Joe Solecki. Still 26 years old. I feel like he's going to win some fights in the UFC, just not this one against Solecki. Am I going to the betting window and placing it? Fuck no. I got to sit back, watch, chill, and take this one for the notes because this could be a greasy one. Joe Solecki, I picked him against Jared Gordon, so I guess I'm a little bit recency bias against that. But I feel like he's going to be the bigger guy. He's going to be able to get off his game plan. And Alex de Silva, name to watch in a couple of years, but not yet.
So you're going Solecki, you said?
Solecki, not to the betting window, though. Just a pick.
Yeah, look, I do think there's a dog or pass situation. It's just I need to see Alex put that complete game together. Like, it's just like there's something missing, and I can't pinpoint what it is because the physical attributes are there. I know he can strike. I know he can grapple. Like, I think he can do it all. And it's just these little mental lapses in the middle of fights, these adrenaline dumps affecting his cardio in the middle of fights. Like, that's That's what I'm most worried about here. Whereas Solecki, more of the consistent guy, you kind of know what you're going to get out of him. So I do agree, but I kind of don't think someone said it's cardio, Dan. Yeah, but when you say it's cardio, that implies that he's not out here running his miles. For a guy that size to make 155, I know he's doing his strength and conditioning. I know he's running his miles. It's just maybe it's the pacing. But what I really think, it's the weight cut. That weight cut is so brutal on this guy that takes away from his cardio. It's just you just got to be clear about that, because when people talk about someone having shitty cardio, you can't sit here and say that Alex Leko ain't running his miles. Like, look at the shape this guy's in. I know he's putting in his road work. It's just with that weight cut, like, how do you recover that next day and expect to be 100%? That's kind of where I draw the line there, man. And exactly, my boy said he's all gas, no brakes. Exactly. So it's a pacing issue, not a cardio issue. He learns how to pace himself. I think he's got talent. I think he's a skilled individual. And I don't fault anyone for taking the shot, because if this is the time when the kid finally puts it together, I mean, this is his 25th pro fight. At some point, you either got to sink or swim. At some point, you either got to put it all together or not. And this could be the time when he puts it all together. I'm not discounting that. And I don't see any value on Solecki at minus 170. I'm going to sit back, pure pick Solecki, just because I think he's proven a little bit more, and because I think he's kind of comfortable with who he is as a fighter. But again, I'm not going to be surprised to see Alex da Silva. He's a talented guy. Put it all together one time on this night and get this win. So I think it's a dog or pass situation, but pure pick Solecki.
Yeah, don't live bet that fight either, because if you live bet that fight, some weird shit could happen with some type of submission or something like that, and you think that one person could be up or something like that, and then boom, end up getting submitted. There could be a lot of weird outcomes in that fight. That's why I don't really want to bet it. There's a lot of different win conditions for both fighters, but I think Solecki more times than not.
So everybody in here, do us that huge favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Truly, truly appreciate y'all being here with us. So next up in the featherweight division, we got Damon Jackson. He's 24-1. What a nice record. Actually, it's really 20-5 because the Honey Jason fight got overturned. But even if it's 20-5, that's a fantastic record as well. Taking on Daniel Argueta, who is 8-0, making his UFC debut. Currently, they got it. Damon Jackson, holy shit, minus 600, Billy Briz, minus 600 on Damon Jackson. The comeback on Dan Argueta is plus 450. So, okay, I guess I got a couple things to say. Damon Jackson, he's come a long way, man, because he used to be kind of one of those guys that would give up bad positions in fights, but he'd kind of be like an opportunistic submission guy. But that last fight against Kamuela Kirk, man, I felt like he turned a corner because he dominated Kamuela Kirk pillar to post. I was expecting it to be this 50-50 fight where there were going to be these back and forth scrambles, and it was going to come down to who got that top position in the last 30 seconds to sway the judges over. And let me tell you something, Damon Jackson put it on him in a way where I was like, God damn. I was like, okay, Damon, keep doing what you're doing, young man. And then the big dynamic here is, look, this kid, Dan Argueta, firstly, shout out to my fellow Daniel. I got to give him respect, share the same first name. So what's up, my man? And he's moving up in weight class to featherweight. But let me actually say this. Although his normal weight class is bantamweight and he's moving up to featherweight, he's actually got more fights at featherweight and even 150-pound catch weights than he does at bantamweight. So he's got experience fighting against some bigger boys. It's just that when you're talking about the UFC level, weight classes are there for a reason. And it's going to be tough to control a guy like Damon Jackson in his current form. So I think that Argueta might land a big shot or two, might get a takedown or two. Ultimately, down the line, I do see the Leech doing what the Leech does, dragging him down to the ground and getting the better of that second and third round, possibly finding a submission along the way. But you're not going to catch me dead laying no minus 600 on Damon Jackson against anybody on the UFC roster. So this is actually a dog or pass situation. I laid minus 200 on Topuria against Damon Jackson. Yeah, and I don't remember who I bet in the Yancy Medeiros and Damon Jackson fight, but all I know is that You cannot lay minus 600 on Damon Jackson, but I will pick him to win this fight. UFC experience and size will be the keys here.
I think this is a situational scenario, though, Dan. Dan Argueta literally just fought less than 30 days ago in a 5-round fucking war against Diego Silva. It was a fight that they were banging back and forth with each other. We originally saw Daniel Argueta on The Ultimate Fighter, and he lost to Ricky Turquoise. And then that fight, it seems like, I feel like a lot of his win condition is he wants to go in for the grapples, the single legs and stuff like that, and do a lot of the stuff that he did in the regional scene. But as you start moving up levels, like you said, there's weight classes to this. A lot of more people are technical and stuff like that. And I just feel like, technically speaking, I feel like Damon Jackson has the ability to get this done. And I'm shocked that Daniel Argueta even took this fight. If you rewatch that fight, man, it's like I just have a lot of doubts that you're going to come in 20, 30 days later, give a good performance of yourself. I think Damian Jackson gets this done inside the distance, and I think it's going to be done pretty easily. I like that KO or submission prop, aka the inside the distance line at minus 145. Usually in scenarios, that's usually minus 160, minus 175 for these types of spots. But man, this is straight off that LFA fight where how do you fight 5 rounds, cut the weight, get the big notice call? I mean, I feel like this just was a dude that was on the phone book. Dana had him on the phone book. He went down a couple of people and he was like, you know what? Let's give that Ultimate Fighter guy a shot. And I didn't really think he looked that good on the Ultimate Fighter. Now he's in the UFC. We've seen this happen before in on that same exact season. And I feel like this is just a setup fight for Damon Jackson to get this finish. But like you said, minus 650. Is it going to give you the warm and fuzzies to the betting window? No, that's why you take the inside the distance prop. I think he gets it done second round submission or first round.
Well, I wouldn't say setup fight in terms of the matchmaker's perspective, just because it's more of a fill-in fight, because he was supposed to fight Derek Minner. They needed a last-minute replacement, so they called this kid up who was, willing to step up on short notice. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you in terms of who's going to win and all that. But in terms of why would Dan take this fight, I mean, dude, you don't turn down the UFC, because when you turn down the UFC, there's chances are, you don't want this fight? All right, well, we're not going to call you for another year or two, so you don't want to play those games. So that's why he took it. So maybe he takes it, and let's say he loses, but let's say he loses admirably, shows a lot of heart, then maybe after that they can give him, let him go in there with Chris Moutinho. Well, he got cut, but, something like that, and give him a more even matchup on the next time out, just because you have the balls to step up against a much larger man, up a weight class on short notice, to do them a favor. So, but we got to see how he performs first, because I mean, if he comes out here and just looks like he doesn't belong, they might cut him after one fight, right? But
he might not look like he belongs, because a lot of his win condition, a lot of his fight style is heavy grappling related. You're not pulling that shit off against Damon Jackson.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, he's minus 600 for a reason. It's just, if the line is accurate, there's no value. So it is dog or pass. Hope that Damon slips on a banana peel. Hope that a fluke injury happens. Like, I don't hope that that's what happens. I'm saying, if you bet
from
the plus 500 on Argueta, that's what you would pray for. A DQ. Damon gets really cocky and knees the kid while he's down. Some shit like that. Those are the scenarios you got to bring up when you're talking about minus 600s, because I mean, you got to lay down $1,200 to win 200. Like,
yeah, but I think in this card this week, there's a lot of big favorites here. You're probably looking for like a 3-fighter parlay to get you close to even odds the best way you can. And Damon Jackson could be one of those selections. I feel a little bit more comfortable about fading Dan Argueta than fading Dan 50K Ige.
I mean, yeah, I understand why. I mean, come on. Dan 50K is a top 15 UFC talent, right?
That's what I'm saying. From a betting perspective, you're going to need 3 favorites to go grab yourself a parlay. That's why I said I like the inside of distance prop. Minus 145 on the inside of distance here for Damon Jackson. 15 out of 20 wins by submission. I feel like Daniel Argueta is going to play into that, getting to the mat, and then once they get to the mat, you're going to see there's levels to this shit.
Fair enough. No debate here. Next up in the lightweight division, we got 2 welterweights dropping the lightweight. We got France's Benoit Saint Denis. He's 8-1, taking on Germany's Niklas Stolze, who was 12-5. Currently, they got it. Benoit Saint Denis minus 160. The comeback on Niklas Stolze is plus 140. So, man, Benoit Saint Denis, you got to give credit to this dude's heart. The kind of ass whooping he took against Solecki, and to not give up, to not look for a way out, and to have that absolutely moronic referee not protect the fighter was just insane. I mean, like, if Benoit Saint Denis didn't answer the bell between rounds, none of us would have held it against him. If Benoit Saint Denis even tapped his strikes, none of us would have held it against him. So the fact that this guy lives to fight another day, is dropping a weight class, like, dude, win, lose, or draw, Benoit, you got my respect. And with Niklas Stolze, he got knocked out by my good friend Jared Gooden recently, and now he's dropping a weight class as a result. And I don't know if you guys recall, I didn't want to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it. Do you guys remember how on the day of the fight between Jared Gooden and Niklas Stolze, the lines went down for a little bit? People were talking about, wait, is this fight canceled? Is this fight on or not? And then Jared went on Twitter and was like, guys, like, I'm fighting tonight. So I had to find out what the backstory was of what happened. And the backstory was that, now this part what I'm assuming happened was Niklas Stolze, I saw Jared at the weigh-ins. They went face to face, and he was like, "Oh fuck, like I ain't never seen a dude like this before." You know what I'm saying? But what actually happened was, the next day, Niklas was trying to pull out the fight. Niklas was like, "Yo, like, I ain't fighting this dude." You know what I'm saying? So he was literally trying to pull out the fight. Like, they had to convince him to go out there and fight. And then you saw what happened. Jared picked him up and slammed him. Jared knocked him unconscious.
Flatlined him.
Like, Jared just, and by the way, shout out to my boy Jared Gooden on a win streak. Sean Shelby, they didn't cut him. He just ran out of his 4-fight deal. And Sean was like, hey, just get a little bit more experience and fix a couple things, and we'll get you back in there. Because, I mean, Jared was in there co-main events with Randy Brown 4 fights into his UFC career. You feel what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
when they put him in there with kind of a more entry-level guy like Niklas Stolze, you saw how he handled him. But now Jared's on the regional scene, just absolutely destroyed Curtis Melender. And yeah, people can be like, oh, Curtis loses all these fights. Yeah, Curtis loses when guys grapple him, but Jared's the only man in MMA history to knock out Curtis Melender standing. He didn't take him down one time. He beat him on the feet. So shout out Jared Gooden. Now that he's up at his normal weight class, 85s, he'll be back. We're trying to do that Jared Gooden versus Mackie Coconut Bombs Patolo fight, and then the winner can come back to the UFC. So that's what we're hoping to do. But anyways, I would say that Benoit Saint Denis is the tougher guy. I would say that Niklas Stolze probably has the better technique here. I mean, I saw a nice guillotine attempt against Ramazan Ameev. I saw a nice knee in that fight. Whereas Benoit Saint Denis, he's willing to bite down on that mouthpiece and chuck big bombs. So I just can't personally lay chalk on Benoit Saint Denis on the merit that, oh, he took his ass whooping well. Like, back to what we were talking about earlier. When your best quality is how good you are at getting your ass whooped, like, how am I supposed to lay chalk on that? Like, at least Niklas Stolze has got some skill, even if he might not be the toughest for UFC standards. When I say he might not be the toughest, guys, people take that out of context so much. They think I'm saying I'd beat him in a fight. Fuck no, this guy would kill me. What I'm saying is that at the UFC level, might not be the toughest guy. But that being said, I think Niklas Stolze has the more skill here. And I think it's a dog or pass situation. So I'm going to say Stolze gets back on track.
See, I would have to disagree with you. I mean, I know coming off that loss in October against Solecki, man, that was absolutely one of the best fights I've ever watched. But, I mean, I get it. He was getting his ass whooped the whole entire time. But I feel like he uses in the regional scene, he was using his wrestling to get to the submissions. And 7 out of 8 career wins were by submission. And then the last fight was the one that he went to decision, because the big question was about his durability. That's why everybody was betting the under 2.5. And boom, goes to the distance. I feel like that was the level of experience that he kind of needed. And I feel like Stolze in his UFC debut against Ameev, he showed that he has the ability to be controlled. He was taken down 4 different times and lost a majority decision. He's yet to really face a submission artist. I think that could be the difference here. If you're looking on Bovada and FanDuel this week, they got the double chance section. I think I'm going to string off the submission or decision at minus 115. I feel like Saint Denis has the volume advantage. He has the wrestling advantage here in this fight. And I wouldn't I'm with you. Dog or pass, considering the minus 175. I'm not really looking to pay minus 175 on St. Denise. But if you go over there to Bovada, FanDuel, and grab that submission or decision at minus 115, I think that's money in the bank this week.
I hope you get it because I'm not taking either side. But my logic is you can't bet minus 170 on the merit that you're really good at getting your ass whooped. Period.
Yeah, I just don't think Stolze is UFC level.
I'm not going to argue with that. You won't get an argument from me there. So let's see what happens. But I mean, I will say at least he had some moments against Evloev. Now, granted, Evloev ain't what he used to be. Evloev is on the downside. There was one point when Evloev was on this nice win streak in the UFC, and even though the fights might not be the most exciting, like he's still a very skilled guy, was able to do that Russian coasting style. But I kind of feel like he's been falling off. So pay attention. Wink, wink, hint, hint next week when he fights the kid everybody's been talking about. So we'll get to that later. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Tony Gravely, he's 22-7, taking on Johnny Munoz Jr., who is 11-1. Currently, they got it Tony Gravely minus 130. The comeback on Johnny Munoz is plus 110. I think we know the dynamic here. I think Tony Gravely's the minute winner. I think Tony Gravely's the more well-rounded guy. The big issue, my friend, is that Johnny Munoz got that black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's an opportunistic finisher. Tony Gravely been submitted a handful of times. One mistake by Tony Gravely, the fight could be over shortly after. It's just, is he going to make that mistake?
I feel like people are sleeping on my boy Johnny Munoz coming into this fight, man. I get it, Gravely, former collegiate wrestler. You put together a solid resume so far. I think the thing that people are really liking is that he averages 6.76 takedowns per 15 minutes, so he's a pretty active grappler. But the thing that you see in the fight tape is that 6 out of 7 career losses have been inside the distance. When he does these transitions on the ground, he's acceptable to rear naked chokes. I feel like that plays in the Munoz's favor here. Like you said, BJJ black belt, 7 out of 11 wins by submission, former king of the cage bantamweight champion, bounced back off of his first loss. I feel like the biggest concern would be the striking volume numbers. He doesn't really throw a lot of volume on the feet, but I expect this fight to hit the ground. And when it does hit the ground, is Gravely going to be Gravely, or is he going to be, gravy? I don't think it's going to be gravy for Gravely this week. I'm going with the dog here, Johnny Munoz. I really think he gets this done by rear naked choke here, and that submission prop is sitting there for the taking. But back to the double chance. I'm going to grab that plus 120 or by decision because Gravely tends to slow down as the fight goes. I feel like Johnny Munoz, he knows what's on the line here. This is supposed to be a fight that we're supposed to see in King of the Cage. So I feel like now we see in the UFC level, Johnny Munoz knows what time it is. It's time to go get this money, baby.
What's the submission prop on Munoz?
Submission prop on Munoz. Money is coming in on it, but I believe it was plus 175 the last time I looked. But let me check it right now to be exact. Method of victory by submission, plus 280. Yes, money slamming in on that submission prop, plus 280. So maybe you go for maybe submission and the round, grab some more plus money on it. But I think I'm just going to go straight on the double chance. I think Johnny Munoz can win this by decision as well, as much as he can get it done by rear naked choke.
Yeah, to me, basically the way I see this fight going is I think that Tony Gravely is going to be winning this fight until he gets his arm raised or until he gets submitted. Period, point blank. I don't see Johnny Munoz winning the striking exchanges. I don't see Johnny Munoz racking up takedowns. It's just about Tony Gravely. The dude's a meathead. And that's the biggest issue because he's actually a very skilled guy. Like everywhere the fight goes, I'm actually very impressed with him. It's like offensively speaking, I love what I see from Tony Gravely. It's just defensively speaking, I mean, how many times has this guy been submitted? And I cashed in on Brett Johns in that UFC debut, plus 115 odds. I even bet on Simone Oliveira at like plus 2 something, I think, the last fight. And that guillotine attempt was pretty close. Johnny Munoz gets that same, gets something similar. The fight could be over shortly after. So it's a tough one. Just sometimes I just don't like the inactivity from Johnny Munoz in these fights. It's just again, he could be losing the entire fight, and one fuck up, one bonehead mistake, one poorly shot takedown by Tony Gravely, and that's all it could take. So I feel you on that. As a pure pick, I'm gonna go with Gravely here because I just think he's the better fighter. It's just that I know there's this chance that he's going to be winning the entire fight and fuck it up like he's done many, many times. So I don't blame you at all for taking Munoz here. The path to victory is there. Like, I cannot debate that. It's just basically back to what I was saying. Tony's going to win this fight until he either gets his arm raised or until he gets submitted. You're saying he's going to get submitted. I'm not saying he's not going to get submitted, but I'll just go on the opposite way and say that he grinds out a decision here. But when I say grind out, he's got to be careful with these takedowns. This one, maybe we see more stand-up from Gravely.
This could be, I feel like this could be one of those ones where it's not going to hit my betting package, but when I'm sitting on the live stream at Pub on Saturday and I see that Johnny Munoz round 1 submission line looking at me at plus 750, round 2, 950, those aren't bad shots to take. Why bet hundreds of dollars on a bunch of big favorites and stuff like that when you could throw $20 shots at plus 750 and plus 950s? And I feel like that's a lot of his win condition in this fight. This could be one of those prop fights. I like the submission or decision, but I will definitely be throwing down my 10 $20 on those 750 950 submission props. That's a little bit too much. Round 1 submission 750, round 2 950, round 3 if you think Gravely's going to gas 15-1 odds.
Well, I wish you luck, my friend. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Jeff El Jefe Molina. He's 10-2, taking on Zhalgas Zhumagulov, who's 14-6. And shout out to my boy Zhalgas Zhumagulov. Got a different wife for every day of the week. Currently, they got it Jeff Molina minus 185. The comeback on Zhalgas Zhumagulov is plus 160. So another very intriguing fight for a variety of reasons. Both these guys are really damn small for the flyweight division. Zhalgas Zhumagulov listed at 5'4". Between you and me is 5'3". Jeff Molina listed at 5'6". Between you and me is 5'4". These guys are tiny for the weight class, but luckily they're both tiny, so they don't got to worry about one guy being more physical than the other. Here's the thing. Jeff Molina, I love the volume, man. I mean, 8 strikes landed per minute, and we got a pretty decent sample size off of him. And when I talk about the size, he's gone out there and beat bigger guys like the Mongolian Murder, Arichi Lang. That dude was way fucking bigger than Molina. But here he doesn't have to worry about that. I mean, just to put it in perspective, man, like let's just say that we've been bringing home girls bigger than both these guys lately. So let's just leave it at that, bro. But listen, with Zhalgas Zhumagulov, my thing with him is that he can be bullied in a lot of these fights, man, because of that size. But he's also decent at weaseling out these decisions. And he's fought a pretty decent level of competition. So that part I like. But the thing I don't like is the volume difference is huge, bro. The volume difference is to a point where it's like this goes to decision. And unless Zhalgas has been able to land, a few takedowns, which he doesn't really go for, he's a striker himself, or land that shot that drops Jeff Molina, most likely Molina outpoints him. My issue with this fight is I ain't laying no minus 185 on Jeff Molina in this spot, period, because I think that Zhalgas has a way of making these fights super close. I think he has a way of weaseling these decisions. Even a bunch of fights that I thought he lost, he ended up winning, back on his scene. So, like the Tagir fight, for example, I thought he lost the Tagir fight. You said you agree?
No, that was a banger.
Oh, yeah, it was a banger, but I thought he lost that fight. And there were a couple of other ones where it was like, I'm not sure, but he's the underdog. So when you're not sure, hey, maybe he can weasel it out. But what I like about Molina, he's kind of got that mini James Krause thing going on. A little bit of touch, then a big knee up the middle. The calf kicks are there. I like the well-rounded skill set. Even though he gets taken down, he's good at getting back up. So I think the potential's there with Molina. I would just kind of slow down on this minus 190. And if it happens to be a close fight, there is value on the dog. But I'm going to lean with Molina here, but I ain't laying that price tag, my man.
I'm going to have to go the other route, man. I feel like Molina's got that good story, started off 1-2. Now he's on a 9-fight winning streak. And there's a lot of public money coming on him. It opened up at minus 150 and now sitting at minus 200. But just being primarily a striker, I get it. He throws up a lot of volume, but I also feel like people are sleeping on Zhalgas here in this spot. Even though he's 1-3, he's fought some tough-ass opponents in the UFC so far, and this would be by far the most experienced fighter that Molina has fought in his career. And the concern would be the volume numbers that we know that Molina can put up. But if Zhalgas can string together some takedowns, I know he isn't the most active takedown artist, but if he can get a takedown in each round, hey, some people are going to be pissed at that Molina price tag after those scorecards come out. I feel like if he can get into the clinch, land that overhand right that he does, you know the wrestling strike, boom, the overhand right that he does. I feel like optically that could make out for some of the volume numbers. And if he can make this a dirty fight, people are going to be pissed that they bet on Molina. I got Zhalgas Zhalumagulov to win by split decision here, and I like Zhalgas by decision plus 333 in the betting markets. I feel like that's a good price tag. I don't think this is going to be a fight that he'll be able to finish, but I think this could be one where we see Big Sal sitting behind the scorecards. He was probably on his phone for a couple of rounds. Boom, he saw the third. That's all we need him to see.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, bro. If it's one of these close-ass split decision fights, which Zhalgas is known for, then he's the value side, period. Like, you're not going to catch me laying no minus 190 on Molina. He's got to prove a little bit more to me. But if Molina can come out here with that kind of pretty mini James Krause style, then I think that he can get the better of it. It's just that Zhalgas has that way of fighting close. And hopefully you go out there and get it, because I ain't laying no minus 190 on Molina here. So I wish you the best of luck.
I'm chasing the dog shot, man. I don't want to get a preview too much of the betting package this weekend, but I think Zhalgas is going to be underdog of the night.
Now, next up in the welterweight, both these guys are dropping. We got Andreas Michailidis. He's 13-5, representing Greece, taking on Rinat Fakhretdinov. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, we're just gonna call him Rinat, man.
Let's go with Rinat. I like to get my names right. Fakhretdinov. Tell me if that's right, though. Anybody in the chat, is that how you spell it? Or Fakhretdinov? Is it Fak? Anyways.
I think it's Fakhretdinov from watching the Dana White Looking for a Fight.
You know, back when the flyweight division first opened, Joseph Benavidez fought a dude with the dude's last name had shit in it. It was Urish Shit Tani. Now we got a dude named Fuck in the UFC. So, you know, times have changed. But anyways, Russia versus Greece. Basically, Andreas Michailidis dropping to 170. The biggest issue with Andreas Michailidis is he comes out super hard in that first round, tends to gas out as the fights progress. Allegedly a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm not sure under who. With Rinat, my boy was out here throwing some bungalows against Eric Spicely. He had zero respect for Eric Spicely whatsoever. I believe Dana White was in the front row, and he was just trying to say, like, dude, I'm going to knock this guy out to the point where I can't be denied for a contract, but I think he's going to reel it in here a little bit. Look, I'm not saying he can't come out here and knock out Michailidis in the first round, but Michailidis is usually good for about 5 minutes. It's just after those 5 minutes, he tends to fall off. But that being said, dropping to 170 pounds, that means he's going to have to put in more road work. That means he's going to have to run extra miles. Maybe the conditioning is there. Is it a conditioning thing or is it a pacing thing? Back to that conversation. But all that being said, I think that, you know, even though Rinat's record might be a little bit padded, he's not your typical Russian fighter. I still think that this is a setup fight, and he's got enough to come out here and beat this guy, whether it's a first-round knockout, whether the first round is close and he takes over in the second and third. I'm going to go with Rinat to come out here and take care of Michailidis.
Michailidis is one of my favorite people to fade. We got the drop last time. Probably my last max bet was Alex Pereira against Michailidis. We got the drop from the lawyer of Pereira. They said he's coming over to the UFC. They're giving him a build-up fight. Make sure you max bet it. So we made a lot of money on that fight. I feel like the thing about Michailidis here is just the durability concerns. Like you said, all 5 career losses are inside the distance. I get it. This is going to be the most experienced opponent Rinat has fought, but the thing is, Rinat, he does not fight Muslim fighters. I thought that was really weird. That's why his record looks a little bit padded coming over from the Russian regional scene. But he showed against Spicely. How good is Spicely, though? I don't know. Boy got knocked out another 2 more times right after that. But I think the caveat here is that Rinat has came over to the States, spent some time down there in American Top Team. And I don't care what gym he's at. It's just more the fact that he's getting this American looks. He's trying to refine his game. He didn't rush in there, chase the money fight. He knows that he's going to have to slow grind this career a little bit because these guys in the UFC are legit. And he's definitely – this is going to be the toughest opponent that he faced. But if the historical trend continues with Michailidis being finished, you got to take that Renat inside a distance prop at -110. Why bet the -275 or -300 in the parlay? I think you attack this in the prop market. If Renat gets this done, I think more times than not, the historical trend continues. Sitting at -110 too, that's the type of price tag I like to pay.
Now, last but not least, kicking off the card, we got Erin Blanchfield. She's 8-1, taking on JJ Aldrich, who's 11-4. And currently, they got it. Erin Blanchfield. Hey, a little bit of money's coming on JJ because I was looking at -600 Blanchfield earlier. Now I see -490. The comeback on JJ is +390. Hey, everybody, all 100 people in here, do us a huge favor. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. Truly, truly appreciate it. After this is done, comment, share, retweet. It means the world to me that you guys would do that. So thank you so much for being here with me and Billy, breaking down UFC Vegas 56. So look, Erin Blanchfield versus JJ Aldrich. This is a pick'em fight. You know, I'm smashing those Erin Blanchfield odds. It's just that -600. Like, come on, man. Like, listen. I bet on Erin Blanchfield at like +125 against Miranda Maverick, and that was like one of the best bets of the year, man. That was beautiful. I love betting her at +125. The -600. Look, I'm not saying she's gonna lose the fight. All I'm saying is that, like, listen, JJ Aldrich is a 10-fight UFC vet, decent parrying, decent hand fighting. I mean, she's some point striking, mixing the occasional takedown or two. Look, she's been there. She's fought some tough competition. It's not like she's some pushover, whatever. The reason I got to talk in these terms is because we're dealing with a -600, right? So you got to bring up every possible scenario. Maybe it's vet lesson time, but I highly doubt it. I think that Erin Blanchfield comes out here as long as her ego hasn't exploded. I mean, she's just a kid.
Not at all.
She's only like 21, 22, maybe 23 at most. But listen, she's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I love how she strings her striking to her takedowns. And then on the mat, she's a problem to deal with. I think that she's a future top 5, top 10 fighter in the flyweight division. So I love me some Erin Blanchfield. I think she's the real deal. Just don't love this price tag. So honestly, it is a dog or pass situation at a price like this, but pure pick. I got to go with my girl Erin Blanchfield. So I think she gets it done. But again, someone takes the shot on JJ, +500. Like, I can't blame you for that, dude. Like, a price like that on a 10-fight UFC vet against someone who's relatively unproven. Like, I get it. It's just, I think that I think that Erin Blanchfield's got the skills to pay the bills. So I'm gonna go with Erin.
Yeah, man, we've been waiting for Erin Blanchfield in New Jersey for a very long time. New Jersey native, currently the youngest ranked UFC fighter on the roster. So I think the betting lines are starting to come and notice that she's legit. And man, I think the most impressive thing about her is her motor with the wrestling skill set. Sometimes with the wrestlers, they kind of tend to gas out, but she goes for it. I like to bet on women that are a little bit active inside the octagon, and she has various ways to take down and control her opponent. Her striking's coming along in the later years of her career, even though she's still really young. But I feel like sky's the limit for her. I feel like JJ Aldrich, on the other hand, 9 out of 10 of her fights in the UFC have gone to decision. So decision prop is juiced out the gazillions for Blanchfield at -175. But I'm also not interested in betting the finishing props either. I think that's the reason why people are parlaying the money line, because they really don't know how they're going to get it done. Aldrich has only been submitted one time in her career, and that was her first fight of her career. And she has good gas tank coming out of the Elevation Fight team in Colorado. But I think Blanchfield beats the toughest opponent so far in her career, picks up this W, keep the good times rolling. I think it's going to be by unanimous decision. Usually you don't want to parlay people that are going to go to decision or people at -600 odds at regardless. But if you're looking to attack this fight, I think the way to attack this fight is going to be in the DraftKings market. You're going to have Blanchfield, Evloev, Jackson, all at the top of the price range list this week. And if Blanchfield goes the lowest owned out of all three of them, you might be dancing yourself to some money this weekend if you play Erin Blanchfield in your lineup.
Well, Billy, we did it. It's going down this Saturday night live. Actually, Saturday afternoon. Y'all mark your calendars. Live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Alexander Volkov taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. You can follow me at Best Fight Picks. Billy, tell the fans where they can follow you, your content coming up. Let them know what's up. And thank you for joining me on Half the Battle today.
Yeah, no doubt. You can see all my content. As you can see, the flag behind me, Puff Sports Radio, Southtown 101. Shouts to the boss man, Jeff Slaughter. You can follow me personally on Instagram, Billy Bridge DFS. We're always going live on Instagram day by day. Hey, if you want to see some entertainment along with the picks, you make sure you give me a follow at Getting Bills on Twitter. Oh, man, we bet all the sports, but MMA is the wheelhouse. That's the moneymaker in the sport world. So just another day at the grind, Dan. Thank you for the invite. Hopefully we do this again.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Thank you again for coming on. To all the fans, thank you guys so much for your support. You know, you guys are the reason that I still do this. You know, truly passionate about it. Thank you all so much for all your support. Please help the channel out by hitting the like button, the subscribe button, share, comment on the video. All those little things you guys do go a long way, and they mean a lot to me. So thank you guys. Again, you can subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. I'll be back next week for the very next card. Also, shout out to everybody that sent me those, you know, words of encouragement before my tournament. We ended up doing really good to the point where I got my purple belt a couple days later. So thank you guys so much for all that encouragement. It truly, truly, truly meant a lot to me. Y'all can follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks. The podcast can be followed at Half the Battle HQ. And then on Instagram, the podcast can be followed at Half the Battle Pod. So guys, thank you again for everything. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.
Let's fucking go.